Well, the dust has settled, ladies and gentlemen. It is the end of the British and Irish Lions tour for another 12 years in Australia, another 4 years until the next one in 2029 in New Zealand. So we figured, as a small post-mortem on the series, we thought, why not do another collaborative episode with the one and only talking teams over on Green and Gold Rugby. Of course, you see us on there. I'm Nick Sleeve. We do the dropped kickoff, and we do it, and we're here for another collab episode. No Nathan this week. He is having a well-earned break. Mr. Hartman is also sick as a dog, so he's out as well. So I have got the one and only Happy alongside with me, and Sully. Happy, how you going, mate?
Mate, I'm extraordinary. What a great event the whole thing was. You know, the whole 6 or 7 weeks was just really good. It's good to see rugby on the main stage again, and yeah, I loved the last game. To be honest, I wasn't completely cool that we were home and hosed until about 75 minutes in, but yeah, because as I said in the second game, about 5 minutes out, I've seen this movie before, and I don't like how it ends.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna say, like, I wasn't feeling comfortable until the 79th minute and the 30th second. I was just like, even though we were holding, I was like, yeah, hold the bastards back, and of course they scored the try, and then Finn Russell shonked the conversion, obviously trying to go quickly, and I just had a quick moment where I looked at myself and Natho, who was in the press, and I said, gentlemen, we're going to get a win against the Lions, which was just nice to hear and say, to be honest. Sully, how are you, mate?
Yeah, mate, I've had an awesome time watching the Lions and watching. I think the growth in that Wallaby side has just been phenomenal. Like, I think we probably should have won the second game, and like, you can't say if we'd won the second game we would have won the third, because the third game would have been different. There would have been a lot more on the line, and the Lions probably would have played different. But I just loved the whole thing, and I love them every time they come here. But this time seems special. Like the people who came and watched them were just absolutely fantastic everywhere they were. And it was just great to see. They only had one shirt, that one red shirt, but besides from that, they were great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, off the back of that, it was what a tour. I can't say a single, like, every single Lions fan we had. I think there was, by estimate, 40,000 Lions fans made the trip from the other side of the world, and they were great. They were so much fun. They were such a pleasure to hang around. They brought so much atmosphere to every single game, and what a joy! And even better that it resulted in, yes, we lost that second test, and it made the third test a dead rubber, but when you look at the numbers and the stats, it was the series as a whole not only was one of the closest we've seen in recent years, but all the fans, it smashed attendance records. It's one of the biggest tours we've ever had. So, amen to that. But yeah, I'm happy. Give us your initial thoughts on that game.
Right. I think it was actually a blueprint on how Australia needs to play going forward. And it will actually become interesting for RA in how they go about contracting their players. It's actually a window into what do they need to do going forward, because over the last 20 years we've spent a heap of money on all these flashy outside backs. You know, as I say, we've spent all this money on guys who can play the piano and not enough money on guys who can move it into place. And so I look at that and I think that's, is that going to be a window into the future of what RA is going to do in terms of how they contract players? But they were good. It's actually how you want to see an Australian team play. Just a bit of mutt in them. They finally started to get the deserved plaudits in the scrum, because I think in the first couple of games scrums were refereed pretty much on reputation, not on what was actually happening. And I think they might have reviewed it after the second game and gone, you know what, these guys are getting pasted here at scrum, so they were looking at it a bit more. You still win some scrum penalties, get some line out, steal some line outs, and suddenly the other team hasn't got the ball they want, and the consistency of it. So, no, I loved it. Nick White played awesome. Skelton best game he's ever played in gold, and by distance. And if you'd have told me we'd have beaten the Lions without Alatoa, without Bobby V, and without Noah Lucio, I'd have said you were on drugs. So couldn't be happier with where the Wallabies are going at the moment as a fan. What do you guys reckon?
Oh, mate, I loved it. I loved how we were more aggressive in defence and we moved up quicker. Like, I think for years we've just been too static in defence and let them come at us too much. And when they hit the line, because you're not moving up, like they're moving through us and just taking extra meters. I loved Max Jorgensen's try when Ikitau and Sully got up quick in the faces and forced them to rush their passes, and that ball landed on the ground and he picked it up. I don't know, Nick, if you remember a player called Bob Edgerton.
I remember. Yep.
Yeah, mate, he just reminds me of Bob Edgerton so much. Just that work off the ball, running hard for kicks. I just love it. If he could pull his jersey out and drop his socks down, he could just about play the role perfectly. I loved before the game. I said Tom Hooper had to come in and cover for Valentini and boss people like he'd been bossing people all year for the Brumbies, and he did that. So he obviously listens to our podcasts. Same with Jeremy Williams. I mentioned that Jeremy Williams wasn't giving us enough impact off the bench because he's like an 80-minute lock every week. I'm amazed how much he can play.
He's got an engine. Yeah.
So Williams just came on and bossed again. Tupou had his best game in ages. So Dylan Peach, like people have been calling for him all things, but he just took his opportunity and ran with it. Like the four guys who came in for that game were just took their opportunity and just grabbed it with both hands, and it'd be hard to see him letting go of it, to tell you the truth. But Will Skelton, after a lot of years coming in and not playing badly, but not
grabbing him by the scruff of the neck like he does at La Rochelle. Like he's learnt to win at La Rochelle. I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So him coming in, Tupou coming in, and having his best game for a long time. It was just everything was just done perfectly. So I don't know whether that was coming from the players or from the coaches or a bit of both, or like you said, Nick, that after that second game where everything was so quiet, people were just, I don't know. But I loved it. I loved Nick White retiring and coming out and being Nick White on steroids.
Mate, he played with it reminded me of, like, I remember 2015 when he beat the All Blacks in Sydney, and he nailed that goal from 50 metre out, and then he snuck through their lines to score the winning try. He was a little prick, and I liked it. So for me, this you're both absolutely right, and I think the point that you raised, Happy, that I really loved about it was that they really grew into the series the Wallabies did. Sure, they lost the first two matches, but I mean, on aggregate, they were only behind by a point, 67 to 68, which is the closest Lions series in terms of altogether aggregate that you'll see. And the Wallabies also won 4 out of 6 halves, which is amazing to me. The thing that, like, off the back of growing into it, the thing that really I noticed in the first test was they weren't getting go forward, and I think Skelton and Valentini had a lot to do with it. I also think that first half they were clearly nervous. They clearly were settling into it, and they were kind of quite. I think they were daunted by the prospect of facing a Lions side that was. They were daunted by facing a Lions side that was coming in that red hot.
And
then
awesome
they get that. Yeah, that's right. Second game, they come in. They have that go forward in Bobby V and Will Skelton, who I think Bobby V was actually injured, but he opted to play, which I think is just guts, just absolute guts. He just threw himself at it for 40 minutes, even though he was injured. and fingers crossed that it didn't hurt him enough that he was done for that he's completely done for the Rugby Championship, because God, we need him. But that go forward came out of it. And then the third test, they added in the one last thing that I think the First Nations Pacifica game really knocked out, which is if you get in these pricks' faces and you piss them off, they fall to pieces. Like it's the same thing as like George Gregan's 4 more years, or Phil Kearns shoving off Kiwis in New Zealand after scoring a try. Yeah. It's that becoming the biggest prick on the field that a lot of Australian sides have done over the years to get under skins and find a way to win. It kind of just... It felt like the last little missing piece. Yeah. Do you reckon? Where do you like? I know this might be a bit of a presumptive question, but for me, it kind of felt like does this feel like a blueprint moment? Does it feel like the most important win of the? I reckon it's like up there with one of the most important wins of the decade for Australian rugby.
I'm actually going to take a little bit of a different view of it. I actually think the loss the previous week was probably one of the most important games for Australian rugby in the last decade, because they played well that week. They lost, highly controversial. We all have, everyone's view is pretty much defined by where they come in relation to the equator. But if you look at it, they played well and they lost. How many times have you seen that? Go back to the Ray Nile game, and then the following week they turn up and shit the bed. So this is now they go, okay, we've stitched 2 in a row. This is now the standard, and we can play to that standard twice in a row. Now we've got to do it a third time, So then now they've got to go to. So that was the most satisfying thing for me, is they played really well and lost. Then they played really well and won, and flogged them, to be fair. So that's what I really enjoyed about it, and that's why I think this could be the point where it's not the light at the end of the tunnel, is not the oncoming train. It could actually be the light.
I think this series was like a coming of age for a lot of those players, and I really hope, like going straight into South Africa, like 2-time world champions, or 3-time world champions, but the last 2 world champions.
Yeah, I think it's 4-time now, isn't it? Yeah, I've lost track.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's a team like. They're a generational team with so many great players in it, and we're coming from a real high, and we've got to go to South Africa, and I don't know if we're going to have Skelton. I don't know if we're going to have Tupou. We don't know if we're going to have Valentini. So we could just cross our fingers and hope that the guys go on from here and realise that we don't need. We can go without a few players, and we've got a good enough group to change our game plan and work with that, and just keep going. I just want them to keep going, because if they keep going, we'll go with them. I'm going with them anyway.
Yeah, I know. We're signed on.
Yeah.
But it's a good point you make, Sully, because here's another thing that I realised that this game brought out of me that I didn't realise, is that we've got depth. Like, we've actually got good depth. Like, Hooper, I'll go back to the point that you raised about Tom Hooper. Like, I was, when CDC champion de Crepney debuted, I was like, he's got to have a Valentini-style performance. And while I think he did really well defensively, he didn't have the same go forward. Yeah. So I was like, so he was clearly, that Bobby V-sized hole was clearly missing. Tom Hooper out of nowhere, he has earned a couple of caps, but, he's just come out here and delivered a stellar result. And served and shown himself that, hey, if Bobby V goes down, there's a perfectly good replacement sitting in the wings, ready to go and ready to make a case and push a case. It's, I think the only place it made me realise that even, props, we've got some decent options. I mean, there's a few players injured at the moment, which we'll get to in a bit, but locks, we've got options. Loose forwards, I mean, we've got depth compared to New Zealand. Yeah, for days. I mean, the only real place where I think where we have really any question marks is 10.
Yeah,
probably just 10, I'd say. Because, I mean, obviously, because Alessio's injured. I mean, I thought Liner really had a good series for someone, I reckon, considering how much he had the toughest job of, I think, of any player on probably of the whole series. Shall we call a spade? The whole series.
Yeah.
That with Alessio injured at the 11th hour, which is just cruel, considering that they clearly had planned him. For Liner to come in and just show that composure from the Reds, I just thought to myself, like, he was my 2027 starting 10, but the fact that he had to come in and be a Lions 10, I think he performed extremely well. Yeah. Just
if I was coaching Liner, I wouldn't let him go near a ruck or a maul.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Putting his heads in there and people keep targeting it. So,
yeah. I mean, God, I know he's had a couple of concussions, hasn't he?
I don't know how bad the concussions have been, but it's just he just can't keep doing it.
Mm. And when he gets a head knock, it generally knocks him out. So he's had, I think that they said it's a third this year. I thought it was his fourth, where he's been, and that's starting to be serious long-term health issues. So obviously they're not taking him to South Africa, and that's cool. But my hot take is Tom Liner did well, but if Finn Russell played for the Wallabies would have won 3-0.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that.
That's fundamentally the difference between the two teams. Other players played well, but he was the difference because he was just, the step in class. The pass he threw in Brisbane to Hilpolotto to score was just sumptuous. If you don't like that, you don't like rugby.
Yeah. Actually, let's pivot to the Lions actually for a sec. Good question here. Obviously, I think it was their first chance to clean sweep a series in I think it might have been since 1974, or it might have been. I've heard so many conflicting numbers. I believed it was over a century ago. I thought it was like 1904 was the last time I heard it. And they fall at the final hurdle after beating all the provincial sides, although albeit less convincingly as the series went on. If you're Andy Farrell, and I'm just how do you think would you be happy with that? Would you be happy with the fact that you won 2-1 and fell at the final hurdle, or do you consider that like, oh fuck? We had a potentially, everyone was talking about it being a generational Lions side, and we lost 2-1 to a side that's ranked 6th in the world. How do we feel?
I think in the cold hard light of day, he's going to be disappointed they lost. I think we've seen by his nature and his son's nature that they don't like losing at all at anything. And that's fair. I don't have an issue with that. But they will feel they should have won all three. But I feel after the first game, although they won the Pacifica game and they won the second test, it kind of felt like they were really starting to limp, like they were running out of ideas. I think in the cold hard light of day, they probably could look at their selections and think they should have picked a few different players. Like they picked 4 7s and then 4 or 6 back rowers, and then chose a lock to play in the back at 6. So they sort of had all these extra players where and they only brought 3 props, and they only brought 3 hookers, and they only brought 3 tight heads. So they didn't. It didn't feel like they had their mix right. If I was to look at it, and I think that did start to wear on them in the back end. But I mean, when we started the first pod with JB, he said that the Lions tour should be difficult, and I think they copped out when they did the fly in, fly out guys.
I agree.
For the Pacifica game, so I called them cowards for doing that, and I stand by that.
It's true though, because the optics of that was so bad because they stopped Pete Samu from playing. And I was in the press conference after that match. Tutai Kefu and Kurtley Beale were pissed about that. Yeah. They were pissed that Pete Samu didn't get to play, and you could tell.
Yeah. But as much as anything, it's for the narratives. Like you're trying to build the game up. The narrative of a Melbourne guy getting to play a test against, a game against the Lions in Melbourne. How good is that? And they've kiboshed it.
Yeah. No,
So
shit.
yeah, but that's kind of the main thing. But I think Andy Farrell will be disappointed ultimately in the cold moments. He'll be happy with that they won almost all the games, but he'll be disappointed to have not sealed it off because now people are saying they're the best. They're the second worst team after 2005.
Really?
And that's how the British media turned on them, just like that. Oh yeah. Yeah, they're now they've gone from being potentially greatest Lions team ever to as bad as 2005
after losing one game.
After losing one game, yeah. But British media's been balanced the whole time. Pricks.
Oh well.
Yeah, Sully, how do you feel? Because about if you just giving the thoughts on the Lions after this series, because I mean, sure we didn't get Australian sides didn't get the provincial win that that we occasionally see in tours. I mean, like Brumbies in 2013, a bunch of Kiwi sides in 2017, even South Africa A in 2021, which I think is a kind of a reason why the Lions didn't ask for an Australia A side, or said that we don't want an Australia A side in this tour.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually increasingly look at all those provincial games and go from the moment that the Waratahs match happened and the Waratahs found a way to actually target that side, collectively every single provincial match got closer and closer and closer and closer. And even though they didn't get the win, they identified enough issues for Joe to be like, oh no, we know where we can beat this side. How do you think that? What do you think? What are your thoughts on if you are putting your proverbial Lions hat on in a different world and putting on a different accent? What are your thoughts on this tour? If you're one of them,
if I was a Lions manager, I'd be pretty happy. I think the escape they got in the second test, it definitely was an escape. I mean, they were trailing that match for 79 and a half minutes, so it was a wonderful escape. But and then to lose the third reasonably convincingly, you could see what was happening. But a lot of that comes down to the three referees, and the better that the ruck and offside lines were policed, the better the Australians got. So in the first test, where it was loose as anything and they could do practically whatever they want, they went to town. But as that got tighter and tighter, and as they got tighter and tighter, I'm guessing, because they played 9 games in 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, it was 9 games. I mean, if you exclude the Argentina game, but that was at home, so it adds a little bit of an element to it. So around about 10 in about 7, but 9 in 6 in Australia, definitely.
That's a fairly tough run with between 38 and 470 players. I don't know exactly how many they got.
All the folks they bring in from Scotland happen to be in the area at the time.
Yeah, that's a fairly tough run, and you could see it was wearing on. And like Happy said, only bringing 3 each of the front rowers is a big ask, because you need 3 each of those positions for every match day squad. Like the third player is always warming up and in kit for every one of those games. So those 9 guys, except for the Pacifica game, they rocked up for every test. So it's a big ask. But no, I if I was Lions manager, I'd be happy with that. I'd be happy with the way the crowds went. It was very entertaining. They played a great brand of football. I loved it. I'm sure lots of other people loved it. The viewing numbers say people loved it. So I'd be happy.
Yeah.
But you're never gonna. I mean, having watched Ashes cricket for years, you know that the English media are always ecstatic or miserable, or
Sometimes at the
or
same time.
at the same time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the rugby media is the same. You know, there's no in between for them. So you just can't take anything they say with any seriousness. They're just there to sell headlines. So no,
Yeah, I also want to categorically say right here, right now, after there's been a bunch of chat about if Australia is worthy or a good location to do a Lions tour, I can now categorically say most attended Lions tour in history, insane viewing numbers. 453,000 people. It smashed the previous record by 15%. And they won the series, which it's out of all the places they tour to, Australia is the place that they succeed the most in. They're coming back. Like they're definitely coming back.
yeah, and it's not about like they were going on about how easy we're going to be to beat, and that's not even what it's about. It's all about money.
That's like it is. It's true.
They don't make that money in South Africa, and they don't make that money in New Zealand, and they're not going to make that money in France.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you should mention that. That's actually part of my my piece tomorrow on GAGR is the average attendance in the games in 10 games in New Zealand last time round was 38,000. The average the last time they had crowds in South Africa was 34,000 per game, 10 game series, and the last tour in South Africa. They won all the provincial games by now, even though they did lose one, but they won all the remaining, including taking into that one. They won by an average of 35 points, 34.2 points per game.
58-14 was the average scoreline, wasn't it? 58-14.
Yeah. And they won the Australian average. They beat all the Australian teams, including the Invitationals, by an average of 25.5 points per game. So
much more competitive.
Yeah. So we actually were more competitive than the South Africans last time. I mean, obviously New Zealand the time before that were much more competitive, but they're actually quite good at rugby. So
but like Lions tours in that regard are an enigma wrapped in a riddle. I mean, how many provincial sides beat the British and Irish Lions in New Zealand, and yet they drew the series? How many South African sides did the Lions flog and they lost that series? It's just at the end of the day, it always comes down to the final 3 test matches. That's the real real narrative here. And I mean, when you throw in, I believe those numbers, the 453,000 who turned out for Australia, add the 51,000 that turned out for Dublin to see Argentina beat the Lions, that's 500,000 people, and it ups the crowd average to over 50,000 a game, which is an obscene result. That is an obscene, that blows any other attendance record out of the water. You've got also, throw in there, you've got the most attended Lions match of all time. They're coming back. Again, it's the truth. Yeah. They're coming back. And off the back of that, speaking of cool concepts that came through in this series, God, I'm desperate to see a First Nations Pacifica side return to the field again at some point in the future. That has to be some part of the model going forward. I think it is a brilliant concept. And not only that, just how they put that together, how they coordinated it, and just the fight that side showed. And whatever the fuck it did to Taniela Tupou to suddenly turn him around, sign me up for whatever the hell they did there, because it acknowledges a great part of Australia's rugby ecosystem, a critical part of Australia's rugby ecosystem in Pacifica players and First Nations players, and gives them a team that I can see. Play them against the Maori All Blacks. Play them against some of the Pacifica sides. Just for the love of God, that has to come back. That was one of the funnest nights I've had at any sort of rugby game, never mind the Lions tour. It was a joy to see that team play.
Nick, would you be worried about it happening too often?
What, the First Nations Pacifica thing?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, because it's an invitational, I think there was an invitational concept to it. I don't think it's a bad idea to see 1 or 2 games a year at least, surely. Yeah. Because I mean, the Maori All Blacks, they get a couple of games a year. They usually either do do a tour or they play a couple of games against Japan or they do something like that. Like if there's the appetite for it and there's coaches that are keen to be part of it, and by the sounds of it, the everything I heard was that it was a smash off the field as well, because it was a really good educational week. The teams learnt a lot and they developed a style and game of play that actually suits all of their natural talents. But the best part is that they're all professional players, so they have that basis, and they also took learnings from the AUNZ game. So I think it's just a brilliant concept that should be made permanent in the Australian rugby ecosystem. That one. I mean, for all intents and purposes, like the AUNZ concept isn't going to happen until New Zealand properly come to the table.
Yeah, it's hard to marry those two styles, I think, too, very quickly. But by all accounts, the First Nation Pacificas have really had a good time learning about each other's cultures and bonding. It seemed like a really good concept, and I'm all for it. I don't want to see him. I'd like to see him tour, like you said, to Japan would be fantastic, or out to the Pacific Islands, and the
USA style tour.
USA style tour, because it also serves as, I think, we've only ever had 15 First Nations. I mean, thinking of the homeland, the Australian, First Nations context, it's only ever been 15 Wallabies. There's a lot of really good First Nations players that kind of came through in that game and served as a great reminder of their contribution to the sport. And to actually have a team that goes, there's a great opportunity for you here to be a player that can go on and represent the Wallabies. I think it's something that is a great tool that rugby can utilise and be part of that ecosystem. But I mean, there were some great ideas that came out of this series, and so many great players as well that in those matches that stood up and really took it to that line side. As a kind of a point off the back of that, I mean, we're probably all going to have a collective break until the first Wallaby squad is announced after this podcast. I think we've all had a well-earned break. I think we're all a bit. It's been a big 6 weeks of emotions and highs and lows and podcasting while under the influence of alcohol and frustration.
They all came around really quickly, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Felt sorry for the players, to be fair.
But if you're going to South Africa, here is a question that I want to put to you guys. How much do you change? I mean, it's one of the freaking hardest runs I think I've ever seen in my entire life. 3 British and Irish Lions tests, followed by two matches away in South Africa. Few runs, it doesn't get much harder than that. I can't think of one unless you throw in an All Blacks test at Eden Park for good measure, which
we're doing.
We're going to get anyway. So, what would you change? What would you change to this Wallaby squad, and who would you bring in? To protect who've earned their call up from all of these matches, and they didn't. Against the Lions, who kind of showed their stuff.
Well, that's easy. Lucan, Lotto.
Easy.
Like he just showed so much. Like he got angry about not making that Wallaby squad and put his hand up. But I don't know if you can play him and Skelton at the same time successfully.
I think he works off the bench, and I also think that in the event that Skelton doesn't get picked, he's the perfect option to bring in as a backup, similar to Tom Hooper with Bobby V. And he played so well. Lucan did. Just get the boy in the squad, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I would have Lucan on the bench to replace Skelton and Williams on the bench to replace the 6. And you can sort of mix and match in there so that if Frost got hurt, Jeremy Williams goes on in his place kind of thing. So you're doing like with like stuff. But yeah, it's Lucan all the way. He has to be the guy. But for my biggest takeaway out of the whole Lions series is, until further notice, Harry Wilson is the captain. Like, I've already seen elsewhere where people are going, we should, potentially he's not the best number 8. I'm sorry, he's the captain. Like he's a really good player. He plays really hard, and I think he drives standards. He seems to be the guy who, puts everyone on his back, and away we go. So sign me up for that.
People who say, and I'm not saying he is, but I'm simply saying Harry Wilson shouldn't be there because he's not the best 8, don't take into account all of his game, and that they just look for that headline stuff and not looking at what all the other stuff he does that's just as important. Like Rob Simmons used to cup the same crap, and he used to do so much stuff, but it wasn't, look at me stuff. It was the stuff that needed to be done, and Harry Wilson does a lot of that as well.
The Scott Fardy sort of stuff, the stuff that never made the highlight reel, but would be indispensable to the overall success of it. I'm still look. I mean, I reckon I kind of, to play devil's advocate here for a moment. I do think that there are a lot of amazing options at number 8, and I think the key reason that Harry is in is because I think he is genuinely one of the best captain options. It's him. It's basically a toss up between him and Alatoa. And what I do like about Harry is that he doesn't necessarily have to say much. It's all action driven, which I think says a lot more than just stopping the boys and talking to them. It's like, we're going to set the standard. I'm going to set the standard. So by extension, you have to set the standard. Otherwise, you're going home. Which is a more effective method of leadership, I think, for a squad that's trying to turn around like the Wallabies.
Yeah. Do you wonder whether I kind of sometimes wonder whether is it because he's got a bit of a shit lid in terms of his hair, and he's kind of got a bit of an average rig that people, he doesn't look pretty. Whether that's kind of a bit of a thing.
It is definitely the rig, and it is definitely the fact that, like, how many videos of him? I mean, heart of a lion. But how many times have I seen that poor boy get folded in half? Just like mean, it's not the same go forward that you'd see from the likes of when you see Bobby V and Skelton make meters and poor Harry gets chopped in half. It's kind of that sort of. That's where the sort of criticism comes in. But I mean, from a captaincy point, yes, I mean, I completely understand. And off the back of loose forwards, get Charlie Gamble into the extended squad, for the love of God. He has done enough in my head now. I mean, he'd always been on the fringes of it, I think, like for a while, but he clearly saw the opportunity to really kind of test himself against the best. He's a really lovely guy off the paddock as well, but also the biggest, again, similar to Mr. Nick White, like, I love how much of a prick he becomes on the field. Jesus Christ. Lovely gentleman off the field who is very nice to talk to, very good with his time. Best mo in rugby. Also calling it here. Seen it in the flesh. It is stunning.
Resplendent, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Resplendent.
Tally Google probably struggles because of the way McWright and Tizano are playing.
Yes,
he mostly plays that 7 role. I know he can play 6, but the six options are pretty damn good at the moment. So
it's the hardest position. I think he's fully. We asked him. I think we talked to him about it after First Nations Pacifica, and he's like, "Look, I'm fully aware that I'm in Australia and loose forwards. We've got loose forwards coming out of our ears here.
Yeah,
like I'm fully aware of it." It's just gonna happen. If it happens, it's just gonna happen when it happens. But in my head, he's definitely gone up the pecking order. I reckon he's like. I mean, even though I'm glad Champion de Crepin is a bang on player and has played really, really well, and I have no doubt he'll continue to excel. And I'm glad he's also gotten that debut cap. But I do think Gamble across the series, he had more opportunities to impress and did. Against the Lions, particularly those Jack Lee skills. It's the same thing that why Tizano and Hooper are in the side, as well as Fraser. It's just give you Jackler options for days. Also, he's just a menace. He's just an absolute menace. So I reckon he's done enough to get into the extended squad at least, and actually be in.
And in the modern game, I think you kind of need 2 or 3 of that kind of player because. You've got to expect they're getting banged up pretty hard. So, I mean, so you probably need to rotate them in and out a little bit. You can't be expecting a 7 to play 4 test matches in a row anymore. It's just not possible, I think.
But and while we're cashed up as well and can afford, I mean, it's been a long time since we can afford anything, but we can afford.
True.
We can afford to put people into squads and get them in the system, you know. So, so we can afford to take gamble and put him in a squad and take him on tour. But yeah, but the one thing I'm really interested to find out when the squad for South Africa is who's going to be with Donaldson in the 10 jerseys, because that's going to be interesting. Geez, I've gone blank on the young fella from the Brumbies.
Freaking
Declan Meredith.
Declan Meredith.
Yeah, he had a great game.
You're the Brumbies fan, mate. You should know this.
Hey?
Yeah, no, it's Declan Meredith. Jack Debrasini has just departed the club. So he's the backup, usually the third backup 10. And I mean, he's been around for quite a while. I think he's kind of also deciding what his next couple of years are looking like, whether he's going to hang up boots or not. I'm not sure. I mean, unfortunately, as much as I know that it might roll your eyes a little bit, I mean, James O'Connor's going to have to be one of them.
I think it should be.
As an experienced head. I mean, it's such a provocative response of who ends up in that. But who the third one is, I mean, when you lose Liner to concussion and Alessio to the neck injury, I mean, I don't know how long Alessio is out. I mean, the natural answer is Alessio. But the good thing is in that regard is that I mean, there's news that came out yesterday that basically the Giteau law, after nearly 10 years, is set to be made redundant by Rugby Australia, which means that if a coach wants to pick a player from overseas, they have full permission and right to do so, which is interesting.
Been going for a while though, hasn't it?
It kind of has. They've just decided to kind of make it official. I think the word that they used was it's redundant at this point. Because, you know, obviously, I think that as a natural part of it, they're going to naturally favour players on Australian shores, which is kind of still gives the impetus for teams at home to perform well. But if a player's performing really, really well in Japan or France, for instance, you may as well entertain the prospect of them coming in, like a Pete Samu, like a Will Skelton. I can't think of any other 10s who could potentially
Harry McLaughlin would be the other one, but
he's young.
I'd be thinking, yeah, he's very young.
He's very young.
I like the look of Meredith better.
You're not as keen on Harry Malcolm Phillips. I mean, he was in the Oz A squad. He's a pretty decent, and he's under Les. He's been doing under Les, and he's looked promising. Is it just why do you prefer Meredith over?
I just like the way Meredith plays. He's very level-headed. Harry McLaughlin Forwards is more of a running 10 and not so much of a kicking. His kicking's not massive.
HMP's a very good player.
He is.
He is. Would you want either of those guys running out against South Africa in South Africa?
Hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no. Yeah.
I mean,
no, against South Africa, it's got to be Donaldson and James O'Connor on the bench.
So the only other one,
when do you let James O'Connor go because he's 46?
Yeah, but it's not about it's about the here and now. It's not about
thinking about 2027.
Yeah, that's great, but our 2027 options are Noah and Tom Liner and Ben Donaldson. 2 of the 3 are injured at the moment, so you've got to go with the next best available, in the full knowledge that James O'Connor won't be available for the 2027 World Cup. He'll be just too old. So in that regard, you go, this is the next best available, because you want someone who's got a bit of nous about him and can do a bit of the leadership role if he does come on in a tight game. Because the facts are, even though we won the third game convincingly, we still gave up really late points.
Yeah.
So that's just been a consistent Achilles heel. 2 out of the 3 games we gave up points in the last minute of the game. So you need someone who's got the experience to come and close it out a bit better.
There are 2 other options that are potentially on the table in addition to Declan Meredith. I mean, the obvious one is he's featured a lot, Tane Edmed. I mean, which I know I mean, yes, he's a capped Wallaby, but he only lasted 2 minutes in the time that he was there, and I still think he's quite green. He'll probably admit that he's quite green, and if he could, he probably would. I think he's going to flourish at the Brumbies. I think he's ripe for a prime season under Bernie, to really flourish and become a fantastic third option or fourth option. I mean, do you dare say it? What about Curtly Beale? He played well in First Nations Pacifica. Sure, he's old as hell. Sure, but he's an option. He's an option.
No, he's a bad option.
Our two first ones are injured though. Happy? What do we do,
mate? I'd take someone out of Shoot Shield before I'd take Curtly Beale. That's just a personal preference.
Let's get Jack Debrasini in. Jack, don't retire
Jack
yet,
Debrasini.
mate.
I'd take Reece Hodge, who's playing in France over Curtly Beale.
Mate, everyone would take Reece Hodge. He's a goat.
Yeah.
he's
you know.
Yeah, he's a goat.
I am also not a fan of Mr. Beale.
Yeah.
It took 46 minutes, but we got the boys riled up enough. All I needed to do was say Curtly's name once.
Curtly Beale.
All right. Well, look, I think we're all going to take a collective break for at least a week or so, until the Saffers squad is announced. In which case, talking teams will once again be back to work, announcing and discussing the squads, of course, and then DKO will revert back to normal proceedings. But fuck, lads, what a tour! What a fucking tour! How bloody good! We'll finish off with it. Yeah, sorry, Sully.
I was so jealous of you guys just going around and at all those games. It would just be fantastic. I would have loved it.
Yeah. Mate, it was exhausting, tiring. So many nights where we barely got any sleep. So many nights where we were kind of losing track of time and not sure what to do. But I would do it again in a heartbeat because it was so much goddamn fun. I would do it in a heartbeat. Because
and you're available to go to South Africa, I assume.
Funnily enough, we're not going to South Africa. I'll be going to. Thank God. I need a few days. I need a few days back in Lake Macquarie to recharge next to the lake. But Mr. Williamson, Nathan, he's off to England, so he'll be in a favourable time zone at least. He'll be off to England for the Women's Rugby World Cup. Wallaroos squad got announced, which is actually looking pretty good after they freaking beat the living daylights out of Wales last week, which was at that game, excellent game. Even though it was pissing down, nearly 5,000 showed up to watch.
Midweek too.
Yeah, even better. And one of the best things that came out of that was, they smashed Wales 36-5, and after losing at Ballymore, and it was one of those kind of performances where you're like, a lot of fans walked away from that match kind of with the view of we're going to come back and watch more Wallaroos games after that because they were on fire. It was one of those really like good results in front of a decent crowd, and I really hope that obviously Siakapisi Palu's out, Charlotte Caslick's injured at the moment, but they're both hoping to be ready for the that match against the USA, which is going to be kind of the critical. Probably akin to a knockout match for them, which is going to be really, really good. But aside from that,
didn't look good, did she?
So she gave us an update today. It's so weird it feels so weird that I can say like, oh yeah, I chatted to her earlier today, and it's just like, but she's been every time I've seen her for the last week and a bit, she's been on crutches. And I know that she had it was quite an intensive surgery, but. She's now just in the moon boot. She's expected to get the moon boot off by the end of the week, and she's meant to start running next week. So that's what I've heard, which means that if that all goes to plan, she's on track for the USA, who she carved up in Canberra earlier this year. So that should be a good one. Yeah, and if they beat the USA and they beat Samoa, then they're into quarterfinals, which is really, really positive. But yeah, Nathan will be there. And next
so you're
time
plugging for the Northern Tour, right? Yeah, the Spring Tour.
I'm doing Argentina. I'll be traveling in Townsville. I'll be doing, obviously we've got down at Allianz in the backyard as well, which is nice. Maybe going over. We're still kind of not sure about what the Bledisloe is looking like. We're going to chat about it when Nathan gets back.
Okay.
So it'll either be one of us or some of us going to Perth or Auckland or just a few of us, but we'll figure that out when we get to it. But no, Northern Tour we have to do at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's the less. It sounds so glamorous until you hear that shit.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I tell you, I just wanted to say there's two other games that I really enjoyed watching, and that was the Old Gold versus the Lions Legends or whatever they called. That was
How
so
much? Oh, it was so much fun.
There was some serious stuff going on there. They're like, it got serious, especially in the second half of that second match.
How drunk were they all? Far out. It was.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering who gave Drew Mitchell a microphone, and because that was crazy.
Anyway. That was. If you can go check those Old Gold Lions. You
could tell in that game in the second half where they both teams started to care about it a lot again. Like the old competitive juices started to flow. Like if you watch the last minute with Bo Robinson, he's on one leg and he's shouting at everyone and he's whacking people and doing all sorts of Bo Robinson things. It's really, really cool.
I really think RA should try and sell those jerseys because I reckon they're fantastic. I'd love an Old Gold Wallabies jersey. Yeah.
Can I also just shout out, and I'm not saying this for any sort of commercial reason, whoever decided to call the classic Wallabies and put Old Gold on the front deserves a fucking raise. Just
exactly.
Genius. Fucking genius. Yeah.
Yes.
Build that man a statue.
Yeah.
For me, I think it really. I still love the 2 minutes of chaos that it was when Drew Mitchell did his freaking hammy, threw the ball back, and then necked a beer from the sideline with a random person. Just at that moment, I went, "Oh, where's this been? They should have kicked off the entire tour with this. Just set the stage for just a big old party because it has been
correct."
As a final point, gentlemen, I'll leave it to both of you. Give me your final word that summarizes this last crazy 6 or 7 weeks that is a Lions tour, and thoughts when we do this all again in 12 years' time.
I'll go first. Really short and sharp. How good is rugby?
Yeah. Way above expectations. I love the whole tour. It's my favourite Lions tour that I've been watched or been a part of, or anyway. I've enjoyed every second of it, especially the podcasting. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a blast, and I will say that it's been a hell of a lot of fun listening to all the Talking Teams pods that you guys have been doing, and it's been nice to do this back and forth with you over the last 6 weeks of us doing reactions and you doing team previews. Now on back to Rugby Championship and the chaos that ensues there. So cheers, gentlemen. Thanks for another excellent collab. Let's do one again. Let's do another one again soon.
Let's do that.
Have a good one.
Bye for now.